here, let's give a little bit of history here. Dave Branson, your pastor, and I met like about, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, something like that, maybe more. We met through the Emmaus weekend, Walk to Emmaus, and so that's how we met. Actually, no, I met him before that. He and some other guys were helping us deliver supplies to a mission agency that was taking food and supplies over to Haiti right after the earthquake. And so if you have your phones, make sure you turn them off, okay? And that's my mom's financial advisor, so I'll be sure to get back with him a little bit later, but not right now. So that's where we met. Actually, I think we met in the truck the first time we were driving to Fort Pierce to MFI, Missionary Flights International, and to take a load of supplies, and then we had some time to talk in the U-Haul truck that we're using to take all of the supplies up there. And then I went on a walk to Emmaus, and so that's kind of how we met. And then I and my wife did the Emmaus walk, and then I joined Pastor Dave's group to continue and meeting together. And so we meet together every Friday morning for breakfast. We've been doing that for years. And Lois, my wife, I wish she could be here with you. We've been very busy helping my mom get moved into the assisted living over here at the Finnish American Village. So she's, as of yesterday, is a resident there, and it's going very well. She's enjoying it. And of course, who wouldn't want to go someplace where they spoil you? Yeah. So anyway, and then my wife, Lois, she is in the group, the ladies group with Nancy. They don't meet every week, but quite often, and that's been a real blessing. So we've become very good friends, and we appreciate them and thank God for them, and know that you all do too. Appreciate their sincerity, their sacrifice in serving all of you and many other people and leading this congregation forward. So that's a little bit of history, okay? And I want to tell you just, Lois and I actually have been missionaries, full-time missionaries. We don't just do missions trips or get involved in missions just when we have time, but we have dedicated since we were in our mid-20s as full-time missionaries, and we linked up with an organization that we were familiar with that was called the Association of Baptists for World Evangelism. And Lois grew up in a Baptist church, and I got kind of connected in with a Baptist church down here in Florida, and that's kind of how we got routed that direction. And then Lois and I were married in 1985. We're coming up on 34 years next week. If we make it to next week, we'll be 34 years. So by God's grace. And then 2 years after we got married, we found ourselves in the country of Argentina, South America. And we served there for 15 years, starting churches and doing mission work. And our youngest son was 6 months old when we moved there. The other two boys were born in Argentina, and so they grew up speaking Spanish. Argentina is like home to them, and the United States is a place that they immigrated to, even though they had dual citizenship until they were 18 and then chose the American citizenship. They're American citizens, but their hearts are that they're Argentines. So Lois and I were able to go back to Argentina We were there 15 years, and then God called us to this foreign mission field called the United States. And we didn't have that on our radar, but God did. And when God says go, you need to go. And when He says stop, we need to stop. And when He says turn around and go back, we need to go do that. That's the best thing. And He knows what's best, even though it doesn't always make sense to us. And that's what we did. We came back, and then a supporting church of ours, West Pines Baptist Church on Melaleuca and Haverhill, asked us to help them start a Spanish church. And now there's a Spanish church meeting on their property. It has been since over 10 years, 12 years now, that it's been functioning. And so their burden was that they, with the demographics of so many Hispanic people around them in their community, and even Hispanics that spoke English in their church, they were burdened about reaching out to the Hispanics who spoke Spanish and providing a church service for them. And it was God leading them to do it. I know this church has a lot of different activities and involvements, and even other congregations that rent this facility and activities. And I remember West Pines Baptist Church used to be Barton Road Baptist Church, where the Barton Elementary is now, okay, and the old facility. So that's where I served for a year and a half as an intern on staff, and got a lot of experience and blessing. And then that church became one of our main supporters. We live by faith. We don't. Our mission agency doesn't give us a flat-out salary. We have to raise every penny of what we receive for our ministries and for our housing, for our living. And we've been doing that by God's grace for the last 34 years. And God has always been faithful. There have been many times where we wonder how we're going to make it next month, but God always provides. And He continues to. We've been blessed to be involved in a lot of different things. Well, our ministry in Argentina was planting churches, new churches, and we were involved in about 7 different church plants. We didn't do it all ourselves. We did it with other missionaries, with nationals, Argentines, and just a wonderful experience. We were able to go back last year for a month and acquaint ourselves with friends who were continuing faithful in their churches and haven't even started other churches, and it was just such a blessing to see the fruit of our labor, but really what God was continuing to do. Right now, presently, the best way to describe our ministry is, well, for one, we are all in serving God. We don't want to be involved in anything that doesn't have some impact in people's lives. We're so convinced that God wants us to continue doing this full time. But what is it? What is it that we do? Well, we're on a mission. And every Christian really needs to be on a mission. We need to be looking for opportunities to serve God wherever you are and be involved in God's work here and around the world. And here's a picture of our family. This is a little bit old. We need to update it. Now we have 2. This son is my oldest son, actually. Everybody thinks he's the oldest because he's the tallest, but they now have a daughter of their own by birth. And they also adopted a little girl that was originally her mom was from Honduras. And so they have 2 girls. And then Michaela now, she's 11 years old. She's about this tall. But that's our family. And then Nick on the other end is our youngest. He is not married, but he lives in New York City. And so we thank God for our family. And God willing, we'll all be together at Christmas time. And so we're looking forward to that. This slide, oops, for some reason, there we go. H4, Hope 4. 4 people groups that God has led into our lives to minister to. And the truth is, we keep adding more H's, words with H's to it. But of course, Hispanics is, we lived in Argentina for 15 years. We're fluent in Spanish. And everywhere we go, we bump into people who speak Spanish. And we have a real burden for helping Hispanic churches with leadership development, encouraging pastors and wives, and God just brings them to us. It was a burden. We weren't sure how to go about it, but you know how it is. When you have this burden, you just ask God, and He'll show you the way in His time. And that's what He does. And we've been in Hispanic churches all over the United States and in other countries, helping them, encouraging them, and being a support to them. And we've enjoyed that immensely. And God has used us. And the other one, I don't know, these are kind of small probably to read, but the other people group that God brought into our lives is Haitians. I started going to Haiti right after the earthquake, and connected with a mission agency, started here in the Palm Beaches, in Palm Beach County, by a businessman, and continues to be directed by a businessman, and it's grown. They've started churches and schools in Haiti. In the desert area, it's called Living Water Ministries. Now it's called Living Water Haiti. And I'm going to show you a video of an experience that God allowed me to be a part of, even though I really didn't know what I was doing. But who was it? Which one of the prophets said, I being the way God led me, God used me. And that's kind of what God does a lot of times. He doesn't need perfect people. He doesn't need people talented or the most intelligent. He just needs people who are willing. And he'll work out the rest. And so Hispanics, Haitians, another people group is Hitters. I've been for 13 years now, chaplain for the Miami Marlins, Spanish. And I've been doing that in Miami, also up in Jupiter with the minor league teams. And I've seen a lot of baseball players come to Christ, and been able to disciple many of them. And so that's a people group that God has put in our lives. And then the last one, well, we call it Hitters. I had to have an H, so baseball players hit with the bat, so they're called Hitters. And then the last one is Heroes. What do you think Heroes might be? What people group is that?
First responders.
First responders. That's good. I know we have a missionary couple with our mission that focus on first responders. Yeah. In my case, it's just something that occurred to us. We come alongside of other pastors and pastors' wives and missionary wives. And especially with missionaries who are with faith missions where they have to raise all of their funds, it can be very challenging and sometimes discouraging. And so God has brought them to us to encourage some. We've entered into a coaching relationship to help them get their funds to be able to accomplish what God has led them to do. And so that's why we call them heroes. To us, they're heroes because they're sacrificing their lives and trusting God to be able to be full time in what they're doing, whether they're pastors or missionaries. So that's 4 people groups. And then we would add another one that Lois has been involved with the last 3 years. And it's dealing with, it's a seminar for churches called Heart, Mind, and Soul. So that's an H. So we'll use that, heart, mind, and soul. And it's helping people in churches to know how to reach out to the unloved and the people who you would normally say, oh, don't stay away from those people, or like Muslims, like homosexuals, like prostitutes, people in jail, illegals, things like that. We would have in our minds, no, you stay away from those. Those are dangerous people. Those are people, you can pray for them, but don't get close to them. But how can we reach out to people like that? And it is amazing what God's doing, transforming people's lives to even reach out to relatives who they hate, who hate them, who they haven't talked to in years. And people are saying, no, God wants me to love them. God wants me to reach out back to them. It's just amazing. So the heart, mind, and soul is taken from Scripture. To love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul. And when we do that, then it doesn't matter who it is. God gives us the love and the courage and the know-how how to reach out to anybody, no matter who it is. Even if it's an awful relative that has hurt us or caused us grief, we can pray for them and look for opportunities to reach out and watch what God does. Well, I want to show you a video of a couple years ago in Haiti. God connected me with a drilling rig, another mission agency that was drilling. And Living Water Haiti had been trying for 30 years to get somebody to come into this desert area where the roads are all bad, there's no gasoline, and there's no water, and people live all over the place in there. You wonder, why do they live here? Why do they continue to live here? And it's just desolate, plagued by, not only by hunger and people dying, children and elderly people dying of lack of water, pure water, but also plagued by voodoo. And because of this mission, sharing the gospel and teaching God's truth in village after village, and then starting schools and starting churches, the voodoo is now a minority, almost an obsolete thing. It's just amazing. The starvation and the what do you call it when the malnutrition, which like all the kids were malnutrition, big bellies and just yellowish skin and everything. It doesn't exist anymore because they feed over 6,000 kids in schools every day. And it's just been an amazing thing. I'm on the board of that mission. There are a lot of missions that work in Haiti, thank God, because there's so much need. And it's not because they're ignorant people. It's because of the wickedness in the government that has deprived them. And we see that all over the world. That's always the reason, because of a wicked, corrupt government that doesn't even allow other countries to help adequately help their people. So I was I took a hydrogeologist from Lake Worth here. He's the lead person over all of the underwater drilling and water in South Florida. God connected me with him. And David knows him. And he agreed to come with me, because he'd already been involved in some things in Haiti. He agreed to come with me to go and observe and see what we were dealing with in that part of Haiti, and do some water testing and different things. And this picture, he was with me, and we came up on this ravine where they said that they got water, and it was just runoff water, and there was a little bit of a spring where the water came. All around here was donkey dung, goat dung. It was filthy. And this old kid, what he would do with that little pail, he would just scoop off some of the muck off the top of the water, and then dip down with it and get some of the better water and pour it into these jugs. And the Haitian that was with us, the Haitian pastor, asked him, "What are you going to do with this water?" And he said, "It's our drinking water." That kind of stuff happens all over the world. We live in a country, we're in a bubble here, really, United States, and we take for granted things that don't even exist. And that's common in Haiti. Here in this area is probably the most depraved part of all of Haiti. And I walked out of that valley after we went there to see that and consider, would this be a place we could dig for a cistern or do something to get, there was a little bit of a spring there that we could take advantage of. And as we're walking out, I said, "God, it's not fair. It's just not fair. The little boy in this family, and hundreds of people that come to the same spot. It's the only place where there's water. It's just not right. And I'm only 700 miles away, less than 700 miles away by plane. And here, they have to live like this." The first time I went to Haiti, I got really sick because somebody switched the water bottles and you filled up our pure water bottles with some well water. And I got so sick. Then I came back and I had a parasite and I had to go through this whole cleansing process. And thank God we had a doctor along on our team that had medication that helped me through that. Because I could have dehydrated and died. And we were like 4 hours away from any hospital. So I said, "God, there has to be something I can do to fix this. There has to be." And 2 years later, God connected me with a mission that just happened to be in the same area drilling for another mission that I just happened to find out about. And I wrote to them by email and asked them if they would stay longer, and they just happened to say yes. But it wasn't just happening. Here's the click on this here. Good morning. It's 9:09 in the morning at T. Revere, Haiti, up in the northwest territory in the desert area, and we are drilling for water. It's D-Day. D-Day. Finally got the drilling ready up here, and it's just a miracle that it all worked out and they were willing to come. This is terrible roads out here and very rocky. If it rains, it could be dangerous to get the rigs out. going to take for them to finish the other projects. The last organization, they were supposed to drill 3 wells, they ended up drilling 5. Hit a lot of very hard rock, and a couple of the sites, I think about 3 of the sites didn't produce any water. That's kind of the way it is out here. You don't just drill down and find water eventually. And if you do, a lot of times you find brackish water that's comes from the ocean, since this is an island. But we're trusting God that we're going to be able to find some water here. There's a cistern here on top of a spring that we built a couple years ago, but it doesn't produce enough water for this community. So the community is excited. They get their water out of the river right now, but eventually that'll dry up, and it's really difficult. So that's why we're here. And lots of people praying. So we're hoping that drilling 3 wells here, if one of them can produce something for us, we'll be grateful. And if even if we don't, we'll still be grateful to God. That's by far was one of the most challenging experiences of my life, but also one of the most rewarding. And what I don't tell about in the video is all that happened before they got there and drilled, and what Satan did to try to discourage me. I was on a motorcycle going to one of the sites we were going to check out for drilling, and guys, Haitians, stepped out in the road in front of me with 2 great big rocks and swung at me as I went by and hit the headlight, bent it down. I don't know how it didn't break. I didn't fall off the motorcycle. I didn't have a helmet on because I couldn't find a helmet. And then 2 days later, I was going back to our mission compound. I wasn't planning to be on a motorcycle, but the vehicle that we were going to be using was broken down. We couldn't get it fixed. So it was the only way I had to get around. And I grew up on motorcycles, dirt bikes, and things like that. But these are cheap Chinese-built street bikes that aren't made for those rough roads like that. And anyway, I was on my way back, and there was a big dump truck in front of me going through these ravines, and they're all four-wheel drives, as the roads, they're just trails. And I was getting eaten with dust, and I was looking for some chance to go around them because it was getting dark and my headlight wasn't shining right. And I saw an opportunity to go around this way, so I started around, and just then he pulled over thinking he would let me go around, and almost ran over me, and I went down really hard, and I fractured some ribs. And there was a point where I was just about ready to, 3 days later, everything was going wrong, and I just said, God, I knew there was an airplane coming to a dirt field, bringing some drillers back from the weekend, that I could fly back with them and just go home. I was in so much pain. I had any pain medication. but God helped me through. And I found out later, the time where I was like almost gonna leave and go back to that, where that airplane was coming in, I found out that laws back here in the United States had canceled her appointment because she just felt an overwhelming need to pray for me. And ladies don't cancel their hair appointments, for little things,
Yeah.
And as we were talking later, we discovered it was the same time. That's the time. So she prayed me through. And 2 days later, they drilled and they hit water. In a place where nobody was finding. They still are trying to drill places and can't find good water. It's brackish. And this is an artesian well. Just comes up. They don't even have to have a pump on it. And people are coming from all over. And the end result, the real end result is that they come from miles walking to get water. And now the church, because we ran a line down to the cistern, big, huge retainer, concrete retainer, water retainer, right beside the church. So they have to come to the church to get the water. And they're sharing the gospel with them. And now with the voodoo that hated the Christians, now the church is their friend. And they're turning to Christ. And the church is growing so much they can't even fit everybody in. Isn't that neat?
Yeah.
God does. With some lady, I didn't know anything about drilling water. But I just said, I'll do what I can, And God led people into it. Now the big project is building on all of the homes gutters with tanks, so that when it does rain, this is a desert, they only get an average of 2 inches of rain absorption per year. It's desert, it's cactus and everything. But once in a while, there's a downpour, and that's when they got to be able to retain the water. So we're helping build gutters and tanks. And I think it's like about $400 to be able to do that on a normal size house. The other situation is with the feeding program. With all that's happening in Haiti, they can't get trucks up to get the food. They've got containers full of food, beans and rice and supplements, and they can't get it up the roads because of all the attacks. In March, we had a group of mostly our board members in 2 different trucks going to do some projects, and they were stopped by gunpoint and told to get out of the truck, and the truck behind them saw and started going in reverse, and so they started shooting at them. And a doctor was shot 3 times. And by God's grace, he survived. Anyway, I could go on and on and on. And I've talked way more than my time that I was given. But
he's a pastor. What do you expect, right?
That's information.
Thank you, Doctor.
If you want to get into a project in Haiti, you can. The other thing is we're lacking $800 a month for our support to continue to do. And what we do, and that's ministry money that we're lacking. And so we're limited on what we can do and travel and be involved and be the connecting conduit for these things that are going to happen. So whatever God will lay on your hearts, we're needing monthly committed money, or people can give a one-time gift as well. And we'll invest it where we see the greatest need. And we just ask people to trust us. Trust us and trust God that he's going to direct us, whether we invest it in something in Haiti or in South America or here in the United States. So that's it. I'm done.
Perfect. Thank you.